In this video, I'm looking at the new things in Headers UVLayout 2025.02. So this one is picking points. Okay, so by that I mean you can pick points or pick UVs and then move them about or rotate or scale. So just sort of transformation operations on picked points. So in previous versions of UVLayout, you get similar functionality by using the G key to mark polys, and so now that those polys are marked, I can move them around. But one problem with that is that if you just wanted to move a couple of points, it's a bit ambiguous about, well, if I'm marking polys, which points am I actually going to be moving? So so by adding this separate sort of interface for picking points, it's a bit more direct. You know exactly which points you're going to be operating on. So the hotkey for picking points is A. Now, in previous versions of UVLayout, A was used to set anchor points. It's probably rarely used. It's a little bit niche, or maybe not something you do often. So what I've decided is, because A is quite a really handy key, really easy to access. If you're doing lots of point picking, then the A would be a nice key for that. So I've moved the A for anchoring over to the O key. So let's have a look. Go to About UVLayout, Preferences, Edit. So that's just this one here. So now by default, the AO hotkey is set to swap, which means that A is now used for point picking, and the A that was previously used for setting anchor points is now moved to the O key. But if you, for example, never pick points and want to go back to A for anchor, then you can switch that back to original under Preferences. So we'll just keep that in mind. All right, so now let's go back to picking some points. So it's pretty simple. You just, if you want to pick a point, an individual point, you can just tap A on it. So here I'm picking some points, or that one I accidentally picked an edge. So you can see if I move the pointer to an edge and tap A, it'll do this sort of dotted green line and pick the vertices at each endpoint. So these are toggles. So if I want to unpick a point, I just use A on top of it. If I want to unpick an edge, I use A on top of it. So that's just A to set individual points and edges. If I use A and drag, that's sort of like the cut and weld, similar functionality. You just press and hold the A key, and then you can select a section of edge loop there to mark those points. Or you can use AA. So double tap will select a whole edge loop. If I pick another one here, let's go AA there. I know that's done the whole one. Let's try this. So like all the other sort of edge loop selecting tools in UVLayout, if it hits a branch here, there's a bit of ambiguity about, well, which way is the edge loop going there? It'll stop. So then just keep that in mind. It's not going to necessarily pick the whole edge loop. It'll stop at these branches. So you might have to go in and just extend it beyond that. So that's AA will select an edge loop, or Shift A, same thing. Just if you can't manage AA, you can do Shift A. So that's, and again, these are toggles, so Shift A, AA. I can unselect those edge loops. So that's picking points, picking edges, picking edge loops. I can pick a whole region. So that's, we need Control A will access that menu. So with Control A, I can stretch out a rectangle. I can edit the rectangle. I can add additional points to the rectangle and make it a polygon shape. So then once I've got the shape I want, all the vertices inside that shape will be picked when I hit space. Right, so that's using Control A. If there's a section. If I just want to add more points, then yeah, just Control A. Just keep on adding selections. If I want to remove some from that selection, just use Control A and the right mouse button. So that will remove the pick point. So let's say do the same again here. Let's remove with the right mouse button those points. So now I've got a selection of points there I'm happy with. Well, let's just extend that. All right, so now I've got my picked points. We can move them. So it's just space, middle mouse button, same as all the other moves in UVLayout. So that's moving those picked points. Space and left rotates them, space and right scales them. All right, so one thing to mention is that when you're doing that, the mouse pointer has to be sort of adjacent to the pick point. So on a poly that's got at least one pick point on the corner. So here and here is good. If I do it out here, away from the pick points, it just falls back to moving the shell. So that's just, you can still move things about, and then just when you want to move the pick points, make sure the pointer's over that sort of area. All right, so that's picking points, that's moving them about. Let's go to move, scale, rotate here. And so the same options for mouse and pinned affect pick points. So that's in one of the other videos I did for this version. So that means if I want to, I've got these pick points, but if I want to rotate them, say about this one here, I'll just pick that point so it gets a bit larger. And so then when I rotate, it's going to rotate around that picked point. If I have pinned, sorry, that's a pinned point. If I have pinned selected here, it will rotate about that pinned point. So that's those things apply here as well. All right, let's now if I use Control A, you can see the menu appears, and I can use U to undo, or just Control A again. So very quickly you just do Control A twice and it'll unpick all the points. All right, I want to show you, well, let's just pick, let's go in here and pick some points here. I'll just, sorry, I forgot to mention another thing. If you do Shift A or double A on an internal edge, it'll pick the edge loop. If you do Shift A or double A on the boundary, it picks the whole boundary. So what you could do then is, if you just want to pick a section of boundary, you've got to mark out each end and then double tap, or you could also do the drag out thing. All right, so let's say I pick those points now on that edge. I can move them about just as I demonstrated, but also under the move, scale, rotate panel here, we can actually move, scale and rotate these points by specific amounts. If you want to do that, you've got to select points. Otherwise, if I have any of these others, it will just scale shells, that whole shell. So I've got to have points selected. So then when I apply these values, it will apply them to the picked points. Probably the most useful one would be, let's do a couple of options. So let's go U1 V0. So if I do that, what it does is flattens them. So it squashes them in the vertical direction. So that could be quite useful if you've got an edge that you just want to straighten quickly. There already is something in UVLayout for straightening a boundary edge. So that's the let's go S. So that's the S key will straighten a boundary edge, but if you had, for example, an internal edge that you wanted to straighten. So let's just get rid of all the pick points. Let's say I pick that boundary, and then if I go scale here, it will flatten that internal boundary. So you can't use the S key for that. You'd have to do that with pick points. All right, so that's one interesting use for that. Or let's again go, I'll just pick these points again. If we go scale UV00, then it just moves them all to a point. So that could be quite useful if you've got a pole or something like that is not joined up. You could use the scale 00 to bring all those points to a single point. So we'll just undo that. So that's, I think that's probably it for picked points. It's fairly simple. You just pick the points and then you can move them about and do those things like squashing or collapsing to a single point. Okay, that's it, I think, for a series of videos for version 2025.02.